So I thought I'd create a team of starter heroes that you can farm from the campaign, make a video on where to get them and who's best to use. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Hey guys, Meph here. Today's video I'm going to be talking about building a team of champions that will help you progress in all facets of the game: arena, dungeons, campaign. A team that composes of your starting hero and other heroes you can farm from campaign battles and easy to obtain champions. Right, well, let's get into it then. So we all know that we should start with Kayle. I didn't. It's a mistake I made. Starting champion, Kayle. I don't have Kayle, but he is excellent. He is going to be your main damage dealer. Now you only need one nuker on the team and he is your man. His A1, Dark Bolt, attacks one enemy, has an 80% chance of placing 2.5 poison debuff for 2 turns. His A2, Acid Rain, attacks all enemies, has a 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Fill the turn meter of this champion by 25% for each enemy killed. That's excellent in campaign farming. And his A3, Disintegrate, attacks 4 times at random, has a 40% chance of placing a 5% poison, the strong version of poison, debuff for 2 turns. So you want to build him, he's got decent HP and decent attack. You want to build him with accuracy to get that percentage chance up, bit of defense, his speed's pretty good, and crit rate. So accuracy and crit rate, and obviously with a bit of HP for early game. And he's your man to go to for all sorts of damage dealing in arena, in dungeons and in campaign. Now the second champion excuse me, that we all get, I think it's the first shard you open. We all get well, she's not a Bannerlord, is she? She's in the Sacred Order. Is War Priest. Now War Priest is, I think everyone seems to get War Priest. She's got great amount of reviews. People love her across the game. Her A1 is Admonish. Attacks one enemy, has a 15% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. That's not really why she's in the team. Her A2 heals the target ally by 20% of their max HP. Heals all allies except the target by 10% of the target's max HP. So she's easy to build. Build her with HP and defense. Pretty simple. Healing, that's your healer in the side straight away. She's a tank. She's got good HP and good defense. She can take an absolute beating. And on her A3, Bless Weapons. Place a 25% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Now, that's a great skill to have. It's the weaker version of increase attack, but on a support champion who can take a lot of damage, she'll be there to the end. You can rely on War Priest for healing your team and keeping them alive. Now, if we go into the campaign, the first one to get is on the first stage or the first level, and that's Valerie. She'll be your shield champion for your team. She's got this is her starting stats. She's got relatively decent hit points and defense. Her A1 attacks one enemy, simple enough. Her A2, once you've ascended her, increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. Also decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and places a 25% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. Same as War Priest. Now this is why she's so good. Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. Value of the shield depends on this champion's level. Heals each ally according to the number of buffs they are currently under. So early game you could Perhaps substitute her for War Priest if you pull her. If you don't pull her, use War Priest. But having a shield buff on all your allies for 2 turns is excellent. And if they have buffs on all your allies, and she'll be your secondary healer. Her aura, increase ally hit points and faction crypts by 22%. She's an excellent champion to have in your team early game. Now, the third one, there's no one from here. They're not worth taking. No one from the 3rd level. Some people like to run Sorceress. I don't think she's any good. When we come to the Durham Forest, there are 2 possible champions. Both the rares from Durham Forest are worth getting. Spirit Host, she's more of an arena champion, but you can use her on her side in your team. A1 attacks one enemy, heals by 50% of the damage inflicted. Her A2 places a 50% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns. That's why she's so good in the arena. And her A3 removes all debuffs on all allies, places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn. Another fantastic skill, her Dark Gift. Removing debuffs and placing a block debuffs on your allies for 1 turn is incredibly good in arena. I probably wouldn't use her in dungeons or campaign farming, but she's definitely one to look out for. Greybeard, on the other hand, he's incredibly strong, also a defensive champion. His A1 exposed weakness attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Provoke's always good on a defense champion. His A2 though is excellent. Attacks all enemies, has a 25% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense, and it's based on defense. So when you have a champion whose attack is based on defense, you can make them super strong by loading up their defense, which therefore increases their attack if their attack damage is based on defense. So you build him with accuracy and defense. Accuracy to help land with the chance of freeze because he attacks all enemies. His A3 places a shield buff on the champion for 2 turns, has an 80% chance of placing a counter-attack buff on the champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is proportional to defense. This buff cannot be removed. So build his defense as high as possible and his accuracy as high as possible. This will keep him alive. It'll keep, every time someone hits him, he'll attack for 2 turns and he'll place a shield on himself. He's an incredible starting champion. He is well worth having in the side. Now the next one, there's no one in Falwyn's Gate. They're rubbish. Heiress is okay. I mean, she's worth an honourable mention. I wouldn't have her in my team. A1 is Bullseye, attacks one enemy, grants an extra turn if the target is killed. A2, Exhortation, removes 1 random debuff from all allies, has a 60% chance of placing a 30% increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. That's pretty decent. But her passive counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. So that's, and her aura is increase ally speed in dungeons by 16%. She's not bad. If you can't pull any of the others, get lucky enough for them to drop while farming for them, then you pull her, and you're looking for champions to put on your side or your team, I would think about putting her in. Probably more likely campaign and maybe some dungeons early on, or she's not too bad in arena. Moving on from her, there's no one here worth looking at. Waste of time. Vladimir Strait, Templar, he's okay. Probably an arena champion if you're looking for rares and you don't have any early game he's probably worth putting in. Another champion based on defense. He's A2, attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a provoked debuff for 1 turn. Places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. So he has that going for him. When he's ascended, attacks with this champion's default skill whenever an enemy places a debuff on this champion. So he's not bad early game if you don't have anyone else. I wouldn't waste a lot of resources on him building him up end game or sort of end early game. Increases ally resist in arena battles by 50. So he is an arena champion. Now, Deadlands. War Maiden. My mind, an absolute must to have in your team for arena campaign farming or progressing in the campaign, and dungeons. An absolute must. It's her A3 that's so strong. She has decent stats. Her A3 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased debuff for 2 turns. She is a champion I have booked. You can book her up by farming this stage and getting more War Maidens and putting those War Maidens into her to increase her skills or her levels. Getting her cooldown from 4 to 3 turns is excellent, because it's for 2 turns, every 3 turns is excellent. I'd build her with accuracy and defense. She's a little squishy. So accuracy and defense, and speed if you want her to go first ahead of Kael. Depending where you're using it. In arena, get her speed and her accuracy up so she goes first, lands the decreased debuff for 2 turns, and then Kael can nuke them. Alternatively, you can build her a little slower so your champions go first and then she lands her decreased debuff for 2 turns, or decreased defense for 2 turns. And then your champions get to go again attacking with that debuff on, especially in dungeons. It's pretty useful. Her A2, Opportunity Strike, attacks 1 enemy, places a 50% attack buff on this champion, and places an extra hit if this attack is critical. Extra hit cannot be critical. And her A1 just attacks 1 enemy, has a small chance of placing a poison debuff. It's the weaker version of poison. She's all about the A3, and she is excellent. Farm for War Maiden and upgrade War Maiden. I would use her in pretty much all facets of the game. And actually, another mention, an uncommon hero, Shield Guard. He's very good for Spider. His A1 uppercut attacks 1 enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. So there we see again, damage based is based on defense. Very, very good. Now his A2, Battle Stance, attacks all enemies, fills this champion's turn meter by 20% on each critical hit. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. So Spider, when you have a lot of Spiderlings, you want someone who can hit all of them, and build him with crit rate, build him with defense and accuracy, and he will help you a long way in Spider. I use him a lot, and for his passive, once you've ascended him to 3 stars, removes 1 debuff from this champion each turn. That's a little bonus. But his A2 in Spiderlings, if you get critical hits on those Spiderlings, you just need 5 critical hits because he's attacking all enemies, and he fills this champion's turn meter. So you can use this skill over and over and over. He's fantastic. Another one you can farm for to lower the cooldown on his skills. So you can get that every 2 turns. And Brimstone Path. Another honourable mention is Diabolist. I used Diabolist for a long time. I got her early in a shard pull. She's okay. She's incredibly quick. as a base speed. Sorry, I sneezed, so I have to edit that out. She's incredibly quick. She's a little bit squishy. Her A2, Electric Storm, attacks all enemies, places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns, which is decent. Her A3 fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. She's a good champion if you don't have one of the others I've mentioned previously. I did run with her for a long time. So that's pretty much it, guys. This is your starting team. These are the champions I'd use. Obviously, until you get some better champions as you start moving away up and through the game. But this is a quality starting team. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. But thanks for sticking all the way through, and take care.